All right, and welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast. We appreciate everybody for watching. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, or if you're just listening a little bit later in the day or tomorrow or whatever, I could not ask for a better guest here to talk about the SEC championship game. And the Mighty Gators are in there like they were supposed to be. Hopefully everybody thought they would be.
I tell you what, I got on my Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask. Got that?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, he's the most famous number 11 in town now.
Well, I don't know if I go that far.
Yeah, hopefully he's going to have a Heisman-like performance tomorrow night. I think that may be what it's going to take. The whole team's got to play well.
Yeah.
But we can. It's very, very possible. And I think we're gearing up for a real good performance.
You know, it's interesting when you think about this offense. Even though it's fallen back a little bit, they've gone from averaging like in the high 40s to the like 34 points the last 4 games. 34 should be enough, you know, to win those games.
Well, Alabama can score too. This is a high-scoring Alabama bunch. May take a little bit more than that, but. We got to play without those errors we had last week.
Right.
If that stuff happens, yeah, we have virtually no chance. But got to play fairly close to a no-turnover game and play well. Defense come alive, and good things can happen for us.
You know, I was going totally by memory on this, but because I was thinking about how it's hard to come into this game after a loss in your last game. You did it, I think, 5 times.
Yeah.
Going into this game because obviously you had FSU at their peak. You know, at that time. But you won 3 of those games, SEC championship games, 93, 96, and 2000, right?
Yeah, 94, 5, 6, or wait a minute, 3, 4, 5. The 3 years we won against FSU, we had a loss, a win, and a tie.
Yeah.
So some dude said, it doesn't bother the Gators whether they win, lose, or tie against FSU. They still play well in the SEC game because that was the biggest game of the year.
Right.
I mean, first of all, you got to win the division and get to that, and then you can win our conference championship if you play well in that game. And we had FSU in the middle there, and we got ready to play them, and they beat us a few more times than we beat them. But we won the SEC 5 of our 7 trips. So I guess that's a pretty good percentage.
Was that difficult at all sometimes to get your team fired back up after they lost?
No, not really, because we talked about this game being the biggest of the year. We talked about it in the summer, and then when we got to win the Eastern Division, well, we concentrated on FSU, and then we tried to concentrate, obviously, on the SEC championship, which, again, was the biggest game of the year.
Was it... was there one game, one out of those SEC title games that you liked the most?
I think all of them are pretty similar. Even the first 2 years, 90 and 91, all those guys are champs. But I sort of like the one in Legion Field in Birmingham in 93. Yeah, we were underdogs again as usual. But Terry Dean had the game of his life. You know, how do you beat a team like Alabama? And they are. They're the best team in the history of college football. We're voted the most outstanding, and they've earned it, and they are. And they're going to keep being the best because they're the #1 recruiting class every year. So they're going to keep being the best.
Because it's a broken system, basically,
If you beat them, you got to upset them.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time Alabama was an underdog.
I can't remember.
10 years ago, maybe?
I think Mike Shula was.
Yeah. So Terry Dean had the best game of his life. In fact, I talked to him the other day, and I said we were talking about SEC championships, and the one we won at Legion Field in Birmingham at one of their home ballparks. I think I read where it was the only SEC championship they've ever lost at one of their ballparks with the championship on the line. And Terry Dean was fantastic. Willie Jackson caught, I think, 9 passes. Eric Rhett ran for 100-something yards. Jack Jackson had the long TD. And our defense played well.
Shane Edge play, too.
Shane Edge had the fake punt. He did the fake punt the year before and didn't make it. He didn't make it in 92. And somebody said, Coach, what did you say to him when he didn't make it? I said, I didn't say anything to him. He was trying to make a play to win the game. So the next year he did it again.
Yeah.
But this time he made it. And the next play we hit Jack Jackson for about a 50-yard touchdown. So I believe in letting players play the game. If you see you can make a play, go make it. And sometimes they may and sometimes they don't. But Shane Edge took a run for it and made it. We were up 14-13 at the time, but that put us ahead. And then we had some nice time-consuming drives in the fourth quarter with Eric Redd scoring the last touchdown to put it away.
Yeah, that was a great one. I think everybody was a little surprised because it was in Legion Field. And then when they move it to Atlanta, you're probably thinking, hey, this will be great. It'll be more neutral. But, of course, Alabama just dominates the crowd anyway.
Well, what happened, I remember asking somebody after the game, I said, how come Alabama had all the tickets? They had at least three-quarters of the people there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all crimson, garnet looking up there. And then we had our section, and somebody said, well, they sell these tickets in the summertime. And our fans, well, we'll wait and buy them, if we're there.
See if you win, yeah.
But Alabama fans, they buy them assuming they're going to be there. And then even if they're not, you can still sell them the week of the game almost. So our fans got the idea after that first one, and we had at least half the crowd just about for the rest of them.
Yeah, I think 96, I remember, was that way. That place went nuts when Danny hit Kwesi on that, was it 84-yard or 85-yard?
About an 80-yarder. Yeah, Danny was talking about that 2 days ago. We did a little virtual with Tebow, Warfel, and me. And they asked Danny what was one of your favorite plays of the championship game. He said Alabama had just scored, and we were only up 7, I think,
right.
28-21, something like that. And we got first down on our own 20, and Coach sent in 65 semi B9. And B9 is a takeoff route for Kwesi Green. And I still don't know why I stuck that B9 on there. I just stuck it on there. And he looked, and he had perfect one-on-one. The guy was playing off a little bit, and Jacquez just ran right by him. Of course, Danny hit him on the dead run. That put us up 2 scores. We held him and then got another one and had some breathing room there.
Yeah, that was because obviously what had happened before, losing to FSU in a tough game, the big headline, the Tallahassee Democrats said war like this big. I'm like, it's just a football game, guys. But it was war for them.
Yeah, we had a chance to play FSU twice that year.
Yep.
And they won the one that didn't really count much. And we won the one that counted for everything. So, hey, sometimes life is that way.
Yep. But it must have been a kind of crazy when you get to 97, you guys aren't going for the first time to the SEC championship game. It must have felt like a real letdown.
It was disappointing that we lost to LSU and Georgia in the same year. We went 11-1 against both those teams in the 12 years I was here. But I tell you what, Pat, a lot of our fans got disappointed. We only had one SEC championship the last 5 years that I was here. Another year we lost to Alabama in the championship game. In the other 3 years, we finished top 5 in the country. The 97 team had the big upset here in the Swamp, beating FSU, and then beat Penn State in the bowl game. That team actually finished 4th in the country.
Right.
And then 98 team finished 5th, and the 2001 finished 3rd. So, sometimes you don't win the championship, but we were fighting for it every year.
Absolutely. What about with this team? I mean, this team, the defense has obviously been an issue all year, and you never know. They can't seem to get any consistency going defensively, and so that offense has almost had to be razor sharp. And when they aren't, you saw what happened Saturday night.
Yeah, the games have really been similar. We're behind in the second quarter, it seems like. Even at Vanderbilt, we're behind in the second quarter, and we scored right before the first half's over. So the other night against LSU, I'm saying, well, we're following the same script, but we didn't score right before the first half was over. So now we got us a ball game. And, stuff happened, and LSU hung in there, and then they start believing we can win this thing. And,
that's exactly right.
And the field goal the guy kicked, gosh, what a kick that was. 57 yards and right down the middle in the fog, and then we barely miss ours. So, sometimes that happens, but we got a chance to play for an SEC championship tomorrow night. So we need to put it all together this Saturday night.
Yeah, did they ask you to give a speech to the team?
No, he doesn't even mean to make a talk. I think they've got excellent leadership. I know Danny Warfel talked to Kyle Trask a little bit about after the loss, and sort of told him how we handled our loss against FSU.
Sure.
We had Alabama in the championship after that. The best way I think we handled it, I was finally smart enough to put the shotgun in.
That's right.
Yeah, Wiley Rich was our center. I said, can you snap the shotgun? He said, oh, yeah, Coach, I did it all through high school. We hadn't even practiced it. And I said, well, we're going to do it this week. And, of course, Danny threw for 401 yards and 6 touchdowns. So
that's not bad.
I'd say the shotgun helped us. What do you think?
Helped a little bit. Yeah, it kept that pressure off of them. But your thing, the reason you didn't want to do it, as I recall, was you didn't want the quarterback to have to take his eyes off of the defense. He had to look down to get the ball.
Well, we just didn't really need to, except against Nebraska. Other than that, teams did not just line up with 2 guys in the gap, blitzing us from right there, which Nebraska did. So we finally figured out if they're going to put 7 guys all right up in there, at least in the shotgun, he can catch it and get rid of it. So that it is very helpful against good pass rush teams. But other than that, I still think you can run the ball a little bit better with quarterback underneath, the draw plays and toss sweeps and things like that were very good for us. But there is a place for the shotgun, definitely.
Yeah, while we're talking about the SEC game, your trip there with South Carolina, I was there for that one as well. And I think the power went out in your hotel there the night before the game, as I recall.
Well, the power went out of our team in the second quarter. Yeah, it was Cam Newton and Auburn. They won the national championship that year. We had a close game early in the year with them. I think we lost 28-20, and we had the ball go off Alshon's fingers in the end zone. But anyway, it was, I think we were down 21-14 with 50 seconds left in the first half, and they threw the Hail Mary. And we didn't put our Hail Mary defense in, and they hit it. They hit it, and now we're 28-14, and it got out of hand. But they were clearly better than us. That was 2010. That was a team that upset Alabama, and we had virtually a perfect game when we beat Alabama in the middle of the year. They were #1 in the nation, and we were 9-5 team. So, if you play extremely well, you can beat teams that are better than you. Simple as that.
I know at South Carolina, obviously, you were good friends with Will Muschamp, and I think encouraged him to go after that job. For him to get let go, and now it's another guy that you know very well who was on your staff, right? Shane Beamer, that's now the head coach. What are your thoughts about all that?
Well, I thought they'd keep Muschamp another year, to tell you the truth, but they, I guess, decided to make a change. Shane coached with us there 3 or 4 years, and then he's been at Oklahoma, I think, a couple of years. He was Kirby Smart a year. Yeah. But he did a good job in the interview process, and they felt like he was. I mean, he's not been a head coach, so we don't know his track record.
He hasn't even been a coordinator, has he, or a special teams coordinator?
Maybe a special team coordinator. That's about it. But yeah, he could do very well. He could. The facilities are in place there. They're way behind in recruiting this year. Right. I think they only signed 6 or 7 guys Wednesday. So they got some work to do, and it's a tough schedule there. They're going to play 8 conference games in Clemson. So
always,
yeah, if he wins more than he loses, he will have done a very good job there.
Well, I mean, not many guys won 11 games. In fact, I can't remember too many. I can remember one.
No, we got all the records there associated with winning, and they'd only had actually 1 10-win season and 2 9-win seasons prior. And actually the coach before me, Lou Holtz, and Will Muschamp after me, they both had losing records. So it's not the easiest job in the world, but facility-wise, they've got it in position where they could do very well.
I think a little bit of it is, Florida and Georgia, when they have it going, they're going to recruit better because they have a better pool of players to recruit.
Well, history and tradition certainly are very important. We were talking about back in the 90s, the 2 best teams on our schedule every year were Tennessee and FSU. Right. And neither one of them had a winning record this year.
But that's what's amazing is you going 11-1 against LSU and Georgia. Imagine if you did that today. If a coach came in and went 11-1 against LSU and Georgia.
Yeah, that would be a good run. That would be a good stretch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is just amazing to think about. Do you see any similarities with Kyle Trask and Danny or any of the other guys you've coached?
Yeah, I do. Well, first of all, Kyle is a lot like Danny and Tim Tebow. They're team leaders.
Right.
And they're always giving praise to their teammates and their coaches for their success. So all the guys on the team love Kyle Trask, just like they did Tebow and Danny and so forth. So the leadership qualities are there. And so when one of those three guys say, hey, fellas, let's get better. Come on, let's pick it up. All right, let's go pick it up and play better. So Kyle throws a beautiful pass, so you very seldom see a drop, sort of like Danny's balls. And again, he can stay in the pocket. He's got height, a little taller maybe than the other two. But I think the best thing is being just such a great teammate and having the ability to play quarterback also has given all three of these teams a chance to win championships.
You get a Heisman vote. Danny gets a Heisman vote.
Yep.
Tebow gets a Heisman vote. I get a Heisman vote.
Yeah.
There seems to be 4 right there we can at least count on. But
I tell you, this game's going to determine who wins the
Yeah.
Heisman. I really believe. And golly, their wide receiver, he's in the hunt
Devontae
right
Smith,
now.
he's on my list, yeah.
He broke Doering's record
I know.
of touchdown catches. And give Chris Doering a little plug. That record stood up for 25 years.
Yeah.
Chris finished in 95, and Devontae broke it this year. So that's pretty neat. Chris Doering, PK Young,
It is.
walk on.
Walk on.
I told Chris, I said, you might not be the leading touchdown receiver in history, but you will be the leading walk-on touchdown receiver.
Of all
Probably in the
time.
history of college football.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to have Chris on later on the
Yeah.
show, so we'll talk to him
Tell
about
him how's he
that.
feel to be the only walk-on.
It's not too many of those.
He really was a super talent for us.
And you guys are lucky, I mean, because who knows if Jamie Spronis says, I don't think so. Or did you say, we'll give you preferred walk-on status?
Well, what happened, he came, I thought he was coming as a walk-on all along,
Yeah.
and he came over one day, or his coach did, with some film to watch, and one of our GAs there, he wasn't with us very long. He was a friend of Jim Bates, that he'd brought him in from somewhere to work with the defense. Told the guy, said, we don't need to watch his film. He's not good enough to play here. He needs to go somewhere else. And somebody told me that guy had said that to him. So I called Chris. I said, time out. That guy don't. We got a spot for you to
Yeah,
walk on here. And I think in the meantime, Chris actually visited FSU.
He did, yeah.
And he got up there and he said, what am I doing? I've been a Gator my whole life, and some clown tells me I'm not good enough. But the head coach says I can play. I'm going to Florida. So it was just a misunderstanding that started all that. And I think he earned it right after his first year.
All right, last question for you, because I've been wondering this my whole life. Where is the square-toed shoe? Did you keep that, the one that you kicked the field goal with?
I think it's here with the university, in the
I don't.
The trophy case down
It may
here,
be.
the Hall of Fame
Yeah.
here somewhere. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's there.
It may be in the Letterman's Club.
Yeah, Letterman's Lounge.
Maybe that's where it is.
Where they have those trophies.
We're not
and so
allowed in
forth.
there. See,
Yeah, I think that's where it is.
only the Lettermen are allowed in there.
It was funny you talk about the square toe. I was watching something about rivalries on ESPN, and they showed Ohio State and Michigan, and it was a snow game. And the guy was kicking the field goal, and he had the kicking tee. You know, back then we put it on a tee.
Yeah.
He hit it straight on, and it just reminded me, no more tees on, you know.
No, I
you
know.
could tee it up back in our day, and straight on, and it's now, of course, it's off the ground and soccer style.
It's ridiculous how good
Yeah.
they've gotten. Well, we appreciate Coach Spurrier coming on the Duly Noted podcast. We appreciate all of you. We've got more to talk about when we come back. We got to do our Leonardo's Mill Hopper Quick Picks contest as well. Coach, thanks for coming by.
All right.
We'll take a break, and we'll be right back. Thanks so much to our title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI, and to our pick sponsor, Leonardo's of Mill Hopper. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube, or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317
3444.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
All right, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast. We appreciate everybody for watching, or if you're listening later, I guess later in time, right? That's how it works. But you know, you can watch us every Monday and Friday. Obviously, I'm not going to do a show on Christmas, but every Monday and Friday on Facebook and YouTube, you can watch us live. And if you listen to the podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, WRUF.com, it's everywhere, man. I'm telling you, it's like a disease. It's spreading all over the place. I did want to bring up Coach Spurrier's restaurant. I should have let him get a plug in while he was here, but that's going to be open soon. They're making progress with that. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and I'm looking forward to it. I think about every second week, my wife will be trying to come up with somewhere to go, and she goes, "Is Spurrier's restaurant open yet?" I'm like, no, calm down. It'll be open. All right, right now it is time to do the Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks, which we do every Friday on this show. And we'll continue doing them, even with bowl games and whatever we have next week. I'm going to get to bowl games in a minute because I have some strong feelings about that. The picks are sponsored by Leonardo's at Millhopper, and we appreciate Kyle and all the great people over there. All right. So we got 4 games, and all you got to do is pick against the spread. Send them in to me, and we've had I think we've got 6 people who've qualified. We actually finally have the beginnings of a prize package that I'm putting together, which includes a $100 gift certificate at Mark's Prime, as well as some 2 Gator shirts, 2 Gator sports shirts. They're really nice. They're Nike shirts. They're really nice. And then what else is in there? Oh, yeah, there's a U.S. Open hat from this year's U.S. Open. So how about that? All that for whoever gets pulled out of the hat if you are among the winners. And we've had multiple winners each week, so we just put them all in the hat, and we'll end up pulling one out. We start out with the ACC title game, Clemson. We've got to listen to the spreads now. Clemson is minus 10.5 over Notre Dame. It's an interesting game. I don't even know who I'd pick between Clemson and Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame did beat them, but they had, home field was an advantage that night. Home field isn't always an advantage in this COVID year of college football, but it was that night. I don't think there was any doubt about it. They were able to win that game. But again, it was a double overtime, and that was without Trevor Lawrence, without a bunch of their guys on defense. And that's why everybody thinks Clemson's going to win this game in a cakewalk, but Notre Dame's tired of hearing about it. You wonder what the motivation is for Notre Dame, too, because they're in either way, probably. I mean, I don't think there's much question. Even with a loss, they're in. I don't know what the motivation would be, but they are 10-point underdogs, and maybe they'll get fired up. Actually, it's 10.5. Almost cost you a half a point right there. Next up on our picks, Oklahoma. Of course, with Iowa State, they're playing in the Big 12 championship game. People are in love with Iowa State, and on the committee, I should say. I don't know why they just don't go on a date. I mean, they're in love so much. Iowa State is way too high. Nobody can explain what is going on with this committee. And I sit here and I say this, and this is a committee that Scott Strickland is serving on, and I think he's one of the most level-headed, smart guys I know. And you can't blame him for what has come out of this committee. In fact, the other day, I made a good argument that Florida being where they were at 7 was about right. But that's the point. You can make that argument. You can see a path to that. You can see a path to maybe Louisiana is not getting a fair deal on it. But there's definitely branding is involved here. But Oklahoma is a 5-point favorite over Iowa State. So Iowa State is so good that they're an underdog in their Big 12 championship game. That's how good they are. You know, but here's the thing. I think a lot of us are going to root for Oklahoma just to make Iowa State go away. Ohio State Northwestern, for example, is the other game that isn't one of these picks. Ohio State's a 20-point favorite. Good luck with that, trying to figure out which way to go. Northwestern plays tough defense and everything like that. But this is another one where I think we're all Northwestern fans because even though Ohio State did nothing wrong, they're going to be blamed for what is going on with the fact that they only end up playing 6 games. It still can get. It appears they're locked in. That the committee has decided, Ohio State, we got you, man. We got you covered. We know how big a deal you are. We get it. You know, you have to be in this playoff, even though you only played 6 games. Even though you set a rule that said if you only played 5 games, you couldn't play in the championship game, and then you changed the rule. But that's what you do because you're trying to make your conference look better. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you're supposed to do if you're the commissioner or anybody making a decision. You're supposed to do what's best for your conference. And so as a result, here is Ohio State, and they'll probably win. And 20-point favorites, and they'll probably go to the playoffs, and they'll probably get beat there. But anyway, so if when you're making that pick, Ohio State, you got to give up 20 points. And, of course, the last one, Alabama, Florida, 17 is the spread that we're using on this. Yes, Alabama's favored. I know some of you may be shocked by that. But it's a really good team. This Crimson Tide team is really good. I've talked about it a lot, how for about 4 weeks I felt like there was nobody even in their wheelhouse, nobody that can play with them. And then you would kind of go, except, Florida might give them a battle because of the way they're scoring points. And it could be one of those hold your serve games. Well, in the last 4 games, Florida's offense has not done as well. They're averaging, I think it's like 34 points a game in the last 4 games. And again, that's usually good enough to win. It just wasn't good enough to win Saturday night's game. But I think Alabama does this with teams, and I've watched them do it all year. I think I talked a little bit about it on Monday. It's like they've got a mouse, and the mouse, they've pretty much taken his legs out. His back legs are gone, and he's still trying to crawl and get away, and the cat just kind of paws at him and hits him a few times, and then finally he just takes him in one big gulp. That's what Alabama playing football is like. You think you got a chance. You think you got a chance. You run on the field. You think you got a chance. And, hey, guess what? Oh, we made a big play here, and we did this, and we did that. And this game I think we got a chance to win this game. And all of a sudden, whoa, how did it get to be 28-7? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's 45-7. They do that with teams all the time. I mean, and I'm not saying they'll do that with Florida. I think what Coach Spurrier talked about, I think Florida's got a chance to go out there and they got nothing to lose, right? They're not playing for anything special other than winning a championship, which is a big deal. It's still a big deal at the University of Florida to win the SEC. You want to have the confetti come down. You want to be able to run around with that SEC sign. I don't think there's a better feeling, really. Winning the national championship is pretty good, but other than that, running around with that SEC sign because you've won the best conference in America. So those are the 4 games. Alabama 17, by the way. Just let me run through those again in our Leonardo's Millhopper Quick Picks contest. Clemson is a 10.5-point favorite over Notre Dame. You're picking against the spreads now. Oklahoma 5 over Iowa State. Ohio State minus 20 against Northwestern, and Alabama minus 17 versus Florida. And hopefully we get some good games, and that's all you really want. One of the more interesting lines I saw, though, that I wanted to bring up, LSU went from being a 4-point favorite at the beginning to a 2.5-point underdog against Ole Miss. Ole Miss had its 2 best players, in my opinion. Their tight end and Elijah Moore. I don't want to even try to pronounce the tight end's name. But Elijah Moore, who you saw torch Florida, torch South Carolina, that was ridiculous. And their tight end is really good. I think they're the 2 best players on the team. They both opted out. They said, we've had enough. We're going. We're done with this. And yet the spread went the other way. It's kind of weird. It makes me wonder if there's something else going on there. And there may be, and there may be not. All right, I tell you what we'll do. We'll take another break right here, and then we'll come back. We've still got a lot to cover. I want to get into the bowl dilemma. I want to get into the three things, obviously. And also, I also want to announce that we do have two new sponsors that are our title sponsors, and I'm really happy that we can talk about that. HBC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI are going to be our title sponsors, and just so happy to be joined by them. Obviously, I've used them both. Maybe one because of the other. No, but no. Hey, it's just great to have these title sponsors on board, and we've got a lot of other sponsorships available. We've sold a few. I think we're really close to having three things as well. A title sponsor for that. We'll see next week. But we appreciate everybody for sticking with us and coming with us, because this is something new for me. New adventure, but in a way it's not, because I've been doing it all my life, standing up and talking in front of people, and I get to do that every day on the radio and twice a week here on TV. All right, now we'll take a break and we'll come back. Again, we got to get to three things, and I want to talk about Florida's bowl situation and whether they should even play. A little bit later, Chris Doering is going to join us. We'll be right back. Thanks so much to our title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI, and to our pick sponsor, Leonardo's of Millhopper. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube, or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast. Appreciate everybody for listening in or watching. So I have to actually, I was doing my radio show in like gym short and t-shirts for most of the time because we didn't have to go to the studio. But now I've got to actually wear some decent clothes. By the way, if you want to, we talked earlier about our new title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits, and of course Titan MRI. My good friend Joe Calorio over there, what a great guy he is, and both great people in the community. The same with Kyle over at Leonardo's Millhopper. If you want to get involved in the show, if you want to, we can send you a rate card and we can talk to you. But all you got to do is call me. I have no trepidations about giving out my cell phone number. It's 352-317-3444. No big whoop. So that's an old Saturday Night Live joke. But that is my line, and you can call me. Well, I'm not gonna say anytime. I still go to bed kind of early because I'm an old man. All right, I wanted to talk about the bowl situation. I hopefully have time to get to three things. We'll get to three things, I promise. But let's say Florida loses Saturday. Okay, they're 17-point underdogs. The chances are pretty good. They might win. I'm not saying they won't win. If they win, it'll be interesting to see where they end up. I don't think so many things would have to happen for them to somehow get into the fourth spot in the playoffs, but they would be taken care of, certainly, and go to a New Year's Six bowl. If they lose, there's been a lot of, the SEC has a reputation, they've done this for years, of making sure that the loser of the SEC title game gets taken care of in terms of the level of the bowl that they would go to, and that's why I think the Cotton Bowl has come into play. But there is some movement that it may be the Citrus Bowl, which nobody wants to go to. But my question is, if you're a Florida player and you lose this game, and you put in your heart, and I would not mind at all. I would not blame anybody. Why would you want to play in a bowl game? Why would you just not opt as a team, opt out as a team? The way we're seeing on a weekly basis, or teams are opting out. I don't know that Florida needs to do that today or tomorrow. They can wait until Monday to do it. But I don't know why anybody would really want to go play in a bowl game. The coaches certainly want it, and TV certainly wants it, and ESPN and everybody, they certainly all want it. I get that they want it, but I don't know, is it really a reward? Here's what you don't get. Any swag. The better the bowl, the nicer the gifts. You get watches and all this stuff. It's amazing, this stuff that they give to the players, and that's why the better the bowl, the more you like it. Oh, yeah, staying in a nice hotel for a week. You don't get that either. You get to go in the day before the game, you play the game, you drive home. There you go. Thanks for coming. There's no reward here. It's a punishment to have to play another game, I think, for most players. And I think we're going to be down to 10 bowls before we're all done. We'll see if that happens or not. That's just my take on it. All right, it is time for 3 things. And I am going to give you 3 things that Florida needs to win this game Saturday. You ready? Well, Coach Spurrier basically said the same things, but I'm still going to do this. Number 1 is no turnovers. Not 1 turnover, not 2, none, 0. Your team's not good enough to turn the ball over. They're just not. You can't. It's a fine line. The offense has to be efficient. It can't turn the ball over and give short fields or kill momentum. You're not good enough to do that. Okay. Number 2, reconnect Kyle to Kyle. Obviously, Kyle Pitts missing this game, and I know everybody's saying, "Well, duh." Anybody could say that. Yeah, I'd like to throw the ball to Kyle Pitts. I'm just saying you got to reconnect that, and you got to get it going early and make it, because that's when everybody else gets better. It's when Kyle Pitts is on the field, and you've got to account for him. And number 3, match Alabama's poise and energy. And by that I mean this team has played in big games before, this Alabama team. You've got to match their poise because they understand exactly what they need. Nick Saban's coaching a few of them too. And their energy is going to be high because they know what's on the line. They want to win another SEC. They want to be the number 1 seed in the college football playoffs, and there's a difference there too, depending on where you get sent. All right, right now we have got to take another break, a real quick one. We'll come back, and hopefully we'll be joined in a couple minutes by Chris Doering, of course, who Coach Spurrier was mentioning. He did lose his record, but he does have the record for most touchdown catches by a walk-on. I don't know if he'll appreciate that or not. But, of course, Chris is with the SEC Network and does a great job with them, and just enjoy the guy so much. He's always been a big part of my life. I can tell you stories, but I won't. We're not going to tell those kind of stories here on this podcast. But anyway, we'll be back with Chris Doering on another duly noted podcast. Thank you so much for watching.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Thanks so much to our title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI, and our pick sponsor, Leonardo's of Millhopper. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube, or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor.
Good. How are you?
If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com.
Hey, is it
or give me a
echoing when I
call,
talk?
352-317-3444.
Okay. All right. So this is live? Wow.
All right, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast. We appreciate everybody for listening and watching, and you get to see the great Chris Doering now. This will be a highlight, and he's not wearing any kind of a Tiger King outfit or anything like that. That had to be tough to have to do that after LSU won that game.
What made it even more tough, Pat, was I never had any inkling of a thought that I would have to be the one dressing up. I mean, I think PV thought he was going to be the guy dressing up, so much so that he bought a shirt size that was probably a little too small for me, which, I'm not afraid to wear a smaller shirt, but it was it was tough. That whole weekend was tough, obviously, with the game not going Florida's way and then having to come in and 2 years in a row suffer humiliation at the hands of my co-host, Peter Burns.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it that LSU now is 8-3 against Florida in its last 11 games. And, when people talk about rivalry games for Florida, they talk about FSU, they talk about Tennessee, which I don't know if is even a rivalry, but obviously Georgia, they don't talk about LSU. I think it's become maybe even their second biggest rival.
It should be, and I think vice versa. When you talk to LSU people, I think they consider Florida to be one of their biggest rivals. I think they consider Alabama to be number one, but I would say Florida is probably a close second in their minds, and maybe that has something to do with it. But I have a chance to do a lot of shows with Jacob Hester, and he talks a lot about that being the team that they kind of hate the most outside of Alabama, and so maybe that needs to be pushed up further on our list of rivals and have a little bit more point of emphasis on it.
Yeah, exactly, and play like it's a rivalry game for once. I mean, for some reason, they don't always play well in that game. Well, obviously, this is a big weekend for you just because it's got to bring back some great memories of being in SEC title games and, of course, catching the winning touchdown, although Judd insists he scored the winning point in that 94 game, which was just an unbelievable game with the double pass and everything. That's got to bring back some great memories.
It brings back a lot of great memories, Pat, for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I tell people I'm proud to have been a part of the first 4 SEC championship games. And then I think about it a little bit more and I realize that just means I'm old. But nonetheless, it is that now it seems like just such a normal thing. But you remember how it was. When we're going to Birmingham in 92 to play in that game for the first time, it seemed like such a weird kind of dynamic. And we're playing against Alabama at their alternate home stadium. So having moved that game after the 93 year to Atlanta, you remember the feel. It just took it to a whole new Super Bowl type level of excitement. And 2 heavyweights in that game with Florida and Alabama both being highly ranked. The thing that stands out to me, and you mentioned it there, the double pass, Pat, it's a lot of coaches that have a big repertoire of trick plays, but very few of them are willing to call them. And very few of them are willing to call them in crucial situations. That drive where I caught the game-winning touchdown, we remember we had Eric Kresser come in when Danny Werfel faked like he was injured. Danny goes out. Everybody expects Kresser to hand off. He throws a go route down the left sideline that we hit. We run Emory and Henry for the first time, so we're getting them off balance with that. Then we throw the 9 double pass that I complete to Aubrey. So it really was just, I think, an illustration of how much Coach Spurrier really believes in his ball plays that he's drawn up, believes in us, the way he coached us up to execute them in those situations, and is not afraid to call any ball play on the play sheet. And I think that was the amazing part about it. I don't know too many coaches that would have done the same thing in that situation.
By the way, he wanted me to tell you that even though Devontae Smith broke your record this year, that you still have the record for walk-on touchdown catches in the SEC.
That is true, and I still have the record for Florida wide receivers. I have the school record as well, so it's that's something I take a lot of pride in, nonetheless, too.
No question about it. Hey, Chris, about this game, the Florida and Alabama. I mean, nobody's given Florida much of a chance. The head ball coach seemed to think they got to play at Heisman level. You have to have a Kyle Trask Heisman type game. I mean, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I feel a little discouraged about it, Pat, in all honesty. I was really disappointed with the mindset with which Florida approached that LSU game. And I think it comes down to mindset in this one as well. How are you able to get that disappointing game behind you? There are faint hopes, I guess, of being able to find your way back into the college football playoffs. But looking at that is just something that's a distraction. This is a ring game. And you know how much Coach Spurrier used to emphasize the importance of going to the SEC championship game, playing well, winning that game, what it means in terms of legacy, what it means in terms of being able to call yourself the champion of the Southeastern Conference. I'm really proud of the way that we played in those games when I was at Florida. We really, I think, peaked at the right time. And so this is a mindset. Can Florida move on from that loss and go out there and claim the championship of the best college football conference in the country? I hear they're a little banged up. Obviously they're licking some wounds, but I do think if they're playing at their highest level offensively, that's the best defense for this Alabama team. It's tough to slow them down. You're going to have to score with Alabama. You can't have empty possessions. You certainly can't have red zone possessions the way Florida did against LSU. Kyle Pitts being back should be a huge part of helping that red zone percentage climb back to what we had seen it early in the year.
Coaches tell players things all the time. They say, hey, this is a big game, or this is this. But why do you think you guys all were able to believe in the SEC as being the ultimate, championship? And maybe it affected the way Florida teams played against FSU during that run.
Yeah, you remember, the emphasis was put on the SEC championship game, and Florida State being 7 days before the SEC championship game, I think may have been a little bit of a distraction. Coach Spurrier started to put more emphasis on the FSU game as we had more success winning the conference championships. I think that was his main point, getting over that Georgia hurdle, winning SEC titles, and then we moved on to focusing on Florida State a little bit more. But that's a brutal 7-day stretch between the physicality of having to play against Florida State and then going to play in the SEC championship game. It definitely took a toll. And that's not to mention, people are going to think I'm crazy here, but Vanderbilt, Coach Woodnoff, remember those defensive game plans that he would have for us? He did a pretty good job of scheming us up. And if you don't, go back and look at that 95 year. Every time we went empty, they blitzed us, and you saw Florida State come do the same thing, and you ultimately saw Nebraska kind of do the same thing with their little zone blitz against our empty set. So it was a tough way to finish the season with those 3 games in succession.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that a lot of people – and again, Chris, a lot of the reason that FSU had so much success against Florida during that time is because FSU was really good. They were like one of the 4 best teams in the country every year.
They stink now, but yeah, they were. People may remember that Florida State once was good at playing football. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just ask you about a couple of the other games that are going to be going on tomorrow. Obviously, conference championship games. Do you think Ohio State will beat Northwestern and get into the playoffs? But I don't think there's much doubt about it. But what's your take on Ohio State and how they've handled this whole thing?
My mindset has flipped since Florida lost to LSU. I thought Ohio State deserved to be in, but watching Florida have to play 8 consecutive weeks, knowing the physical and mental toll that it takes to play that long in a conference schedule the way we did. When I was at Florida, we played an 8-game conference schedule, and it took a huge toll both physically and mentally. I can only imagine what it was like playing a 10-game conference schedule this year, particularly not having that bye week because of the way things were adjusted with the schedule. So I think having a larger sample size of work from Ohio State should be required. We don't know what would have happened if they would have got into the late portion of their season and having to play in succession the way that the SEC has. Look no further than a couple of years ago. They lost to Iowa late in the season. They lost to Purdue late in the season. So just to think that you're going to cruise through the schedule because you look pretty good, that's not the case. Just ask Florida.
All right. As far as Clemson and Notre Dame, I'm just looking forward to watching that game.
Yeah, it should be fun. I actually believe I'm picking Notre Dame to beat Clemson. I believe in Notre Dame's defense. I don't think it was a fluke. I don't think you can attribute it to being Trevor Lawrence's absence having that big of an impact. That DJ Uiagalelei did a great job in that game as a freshman. But I think Notre Dame has something to prove here for whatever reason. I don't have a lot of stats to point to or reasons to tell you why I'm picking Notre Dame. For some reason, they feel like a little bit more legitimate team than I've ever given them credit for in recent years.
Well, last question. Why did you pick number 28?
Because remember when I walked on originally, they gave me number 42, and that was even more ridiculous number for a wide receiver than number 28 was. So the second year they gave me 28, and I figured, all right, I'm going to try to make something out of this, which, I feel pretty confident about that. But I still have guys that I've worked with here in the SEC that are vintage age. and they say, man, we used to hate you, and we used to say, what kind of dumb MF wears number 28? You know, so that's what it was known for, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's apparently they didn't decide not to cover it, number 28 either, very much, because obviously with the career you had, it was pretty worked out pretty well.
Maybe that was the key. Maybe that was the key. I was, being a white dude, skinny, and wearing number 28, it was like, who the hell is this guy? We're not covering him.
It was too much for them. They couldn't handle
That's
it.
Right. That's
hey,
right.
Chris, thanks. We appreciate you taking the time and coming on the Dooley Noted podcast, another Dooley Noted podcast, and thanks so much for your time, buddy. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hey, congrats on your new show, man. I'm happy to be on here, one of the early sessions, and excited to follow you, brother.
All right, buddy. We'll see you later.
See ya. Bye-bye.
That's going to do it for another Dooley Noted podcast. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. Certainly, we brought you Coach Spurrier and Chris Doering. You can't go wrong with those two guys. We're going to continue to do that. If you've ever listened to any of the radio shows I've done over the many years, I'm pretty good at getting good guests because I have a pretty well, yeah, you want to say pretty heavy Rolodex, but who has a Rolodex anymore? Is there anybody? Everything's on your phone. Here it is, though. Right here, I got a lot of numbers. I promise you. We'll get out of here. Appreciate everybody for being a part of this. Until next time, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.